We'll go ahead and get started. So, Sahuarita board members and the district administration are meeting at the district auditorium. There will also be accommodations for up to 75 community members to attend the meeting. The meeting will be live streamed by use of YouTube, which allows for members of the public to view and or listen to the meeting virtually. If you need accommodations, please contact Betsy Palacio at email bpalacio@sahuarita.net. A link has been provided for any call to public comments. 20 minutes will be allowed for reading of online and in-person comments at the meeting. Any comments not read during the agenda item will be entered into the public record. We'll adhere to all board meeting procedures to the extent practicable. An audio recording and or a draft copy of the minutes from this meeting will be available to the public, and we apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate these unprecedented times. If you'll please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the roll call. Ms. Palacio.
Governing Board President Kevin Opalka.
Here.
Governing Board Clerk Denise Reese.
Here.
Governing Board Member Sherry Lowe.
Here.
Governing Board Member Dr. John Sparks.
Here.
Governing Board Member Nicole Warner.
Here.
District Administration Superintendent Dr. Manuel Valenzuela.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Scott Downs.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Brett Bonner.
Here.
Chief Financial Officer Lisette Huey.
Here.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. President Opalka, members of the board, after reviewing consideration, I do recommend approval of the agenda as it was revised.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes.
Yes, sir. President Opalka, members of the board, in your packet you have draft copies of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of this governing board from August 25th, 2021, and also the notice of public gathering of the board September 8th through 10th at the Arizona School Board Association Law Conference. And after your review of those documents, I do recommend your approval at this time.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. We'll move on to ratification of the vouchers. Ms. Huey.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I recommend payroll voucher ratification 3, number 303, and number 4, totaling $3,135,505.79. New payroll for approval, number 6 through number 9, totaling $12 million, for a total payroll approval of $15,135,505.79. Additionally, I recommend expense vouchers 2189 through 2198 and number 1009 through 1018, totaling $1,970,074.64. Additionally, I recommend new expense vouchers for approval 1023 to 1034, totaling $24 million, for a grand total of total ratification and new vouchers of $41,105,580.43.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We move on to the superintendent report. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Opalka, members of the board. This evening, I really only have one item to discuss, and that's the enrollment report. As you see on first review, we are still holding strong and steady at 6,270 students enrolled, which is down 8 from the prior meeting. However, interesting observation, if you look at the next graph, which is the trends, the line graph over time, the blue meaning the current year, orange meaning the prior year, you see that from the second meeting in August to the September meeting, both years, there was a slight drop. But if you look at each one of those and you compare them respectively from this year to last year at those points in time, you find that at this meeting, we have a net gain of 405 students versus the last meeting, we were sitting at having gained 387 students. So again, the overall trend is favorable in terms of growth and the budgetary stability that provides. So with that, I believe that is the conclusion of my report for this evening.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to governing board reports. Dr. Sparks.
I'll say I'm always grateful to attend the law conference. It's always interesting to see attorneys in their native habitat. It can be quite funny at times, but it's to kind of see all the legal ramifications of various issues going on in the state. So I'm grateful that we get to attend that and to hear that perspective and hear those attorneys speak who are, often involved in those legal issues, whether it be from the Supreme Court level, the new Mahoney decision, down to stuff going on in the state right now. So that's it. I appreciate it. I'm glad everybody's here tonight. I always like it when there's lots of people here and we do the Pledge of Allegiance and it's good and robust. I really enjoy that. I'm grateful that you're all here this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to Ms. Lowell.
I concur about the law conference. It was very interesting to be with our fellow board members from across the state. I love seeing everybody here tonight. It's great to be back on campus and visiting and seeing all the kids in the classroom, and appreciate all the diligence and hard work everybody's putting into that. So thank you very much.
Ms. Reese.
No report tonight.
Ms. Warner.
I'd just like to use my report time once again just to have a moment to acknowledge the members of our Sahuarita family that we've lost since the last meeting to COVID, and just have a little respect for their memory, and that's all I've got for today.
Thank you very much. And I want to say I've been enjoying not attending as many events in person yet, but catching up with everyone's videos online that they post on social media, from middle school volleyball through high school football, band, all the different events that have been going on, and seeing all that activity pick up is, reminds me of the reason why I took this job, and the kids and doing it for the kids. So thank you. We'll move on to the recognition of community and staff. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Opalka, members of the board. This is truly one of our very favorite parts of every board meeting, and we're glad to be able to do this again in person, and that's to recognize something that we believe is very important, that a part of the educational process is teaching young people, modeling for young people, and helping to develop them as good citizens, as citizens of character, as students who demonstrate virtue in their daily lives. And so we partnered with our local newspaper, the Green Valley News, the Sahuarita Sun, and also with one of our major businesses in the area, the Freeport-McMoran Company, to recognize students with the Leader in Character Award. And it's given to a very select number of students who are identified by their respective schools for being shining stars, exemplary models of these virtues of outstanding citizenship and character. So students, thank you for coming, and thank you for bringing your special family members and friends with you. It truly is a big honor, and I know that the board shares in my congratulations to all of you for the wonderful example that you set and for the contributions that you make to your respective school communities. So congratulations. When your name is called, I believe that Mrs. Reese will do the honors today. You'll walk by. You'll receive a letter from me, a nice certificate, and a gift card to Barnes & Noble so that you can buy books and read wonderful stories as a token of our appreciation. You'll take your certificate and you'll walk up to the steps over there where Mr. Bonner will point you, and then we're going to take your picture and put it in the newspaper so everybody knows how wonderful you are. So again, congratulations. And Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, Nana, Tata, everybody that came, thank you, because we know that success is truly a family affair and it takes a total team effort. So thank you for modeling and guiding these young people in their growth and development thus far. You make a difference. So we'll go ahead and begin, as we do every meeting, with the leader in character from Sopery Elementary School, third grader. Congratulations, Giselle Alvarez. Giselle. And next, we recognize our leader in character from On the Trail School. We do recognize 2 at our K-8 schools because they're kind of a middle and an elementary school combined. So our first honoree from On the Trail is a 4th grader. Congratulations, Kenneth Chavez. And our middle school honoree from On the Trail K-8 school is a 7th grader. Congratulations, Michaela Wolf. We then move to recognize the leader in character from Sahuarita Primary School. Congratulations, 2nd grader Charlotte Vega. And we move next door from the primary school to Sahuarita Intermediate, where we are proud and honored to recognize their leader in character, 4th grader Henry San. Henry, come on down. I don't see Henry. We'll make sure that he receives his award and is duly recognized. So we will then go across the street now to Copperview Elementary School, where our leader in character is a kindergartner. Wow, that's awesome. Didn't take long to make an impression. Congratulations, Dalen Walker. Congratulations to Daylin, and we will now recognize our Wrights and Ridge K-8 leaders in character, and again, they get 2. And the first honoree is a 1st grader. Congratulations, Justin Trevino. Justin. And our middle school honoree from Wrights and Ridge School is a 7th grader. Congratulations, Lucas Rodriguez. Lucas. We will now recognize our leader in character from Sahuarita Middle School, an 8th grader. Congratulations, Isaiah Bright. I'm so proud of our students. They are truly amazing. And we always round out our leader in character with our high schools. And of course, now we have our new digital online school, SDPA. But we begin with Sahuarita High School, where our leader in character is a senior. Congratulations, Patrick Sisk. Our leader in character from Walden Grove High School is also a senior. These 2 obviously lead by example. Congratulations, Katrina Rodriguez. And our final honoree for leader in character this evening is a junior with Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy. Congratulations, Levi Wallace. see Levi, and I think Mrs. Woods is going to take your picture. You will be in the newspaper, I'm sure, within the next week. We congratulate you. We thank and we honor and we recognize your parents and your family for being here and for helping to shape your lives. After your picture is taken, you may leave if you'd like, or you may stay if you'd like. But nonetheless, we want to give you a round of applause and our sincerest congratulations. Oh.
Yeah. I know. But not so obvious. Well deserved,
She's a senior, yeah.
right? I like this. It's nice. It's nice that they can do that. I think it's good.
Congratulations. That's awesome. I can't believe she's a senior.
Proud mama, proud mama.
They're just so darn cute.
Great, thank you very much. We'll move on to the call to public. Consideration and discussion of comments and concerns from the public. For those wishing to address the governing board on items not on tonight's agenda may do so at this time or at the board's discretion at the time the items appear on the agenda. Speakers are requested to hold their comments to 2 minutes or less. 20 minutes will be allowed for both online and in-person comments. In accordance with Arizona open meeting law, board members may not respond, comment, or ask questions of speakers regarding issues not on the agenda. Any comments not read during this agenda item will still be entered into public record. Ms. Reese.
The first speaker this evening is Mary Grace Werner.
Good evening. My name is Mary Grace Werner, and I want you to know a little bit about my medical education because I want people... Is it on?
Yes.
All right, hear me better. All right, I am a clinical laboratory scientist. I am ASCP registered and ASCLS certified. I have taught in just about any medical course you can think of, but my specialties are medical microbiology and immunology. I have over 40 plus years of experience in the medical laboratory and in teaching medical students a variety of medical courses. Now, I'm here to share with you what I truly know is true. It may not be what you think you have heard on the news. It may not be what you've read in certain journals, but it is the truth. And I have worked in these fields, and I understand how viruses work. I understand to a great degree how your immune system works, and I understand what you can do to help it and what you can do to injure it. And I'm here to talk about it is not necessary to vaccinate your children. Okay, when you look at the statistics, even before the Delta strain, we had the Alpha strain. And that was before not too many people were vaccinated, and only 1.7% people that got sick were children. Now, children, first of all, depending upon how young they are, they don't have a lot of ACE2 receptors in their noses and their nasal passages, which means it's a lot harder for the virus to gain entrance into their bodies. So they're not carrying a very high load of organism, or a very high load gets into their system. Second of all, 10 to 15% of all colds are caused by COVID viruses. There's a cross-reactivity that occurs between the antibodies that these students form to those cold coronaviruses that can work against this SARS-CoV-2 as well, even the Delta strain. Okay. Now, contrary to
That's your time. Thank you very
popular
much.
opinion, there are treatments. You do not have to have a vaccine, and you all know how that's riddled with all kinds of serious consequences and death. Hydroxychloroquine, 250 clinical studies say it works. Ivermectin, 60 clinical trials
That's your time. Thank
say
you.
it works.
Could we
Do
call the
not
next person
vaccinate your children.
to the microphone, please? Thank you.
Karen Rojan.
And if anybody would like more information, I'd be glad to share it with you.
Hello again, Karen Rojan, Sahuarita Education Association President. I wanted to talk to you about our local union, my union. I'd like to tell you who the union is and what we do. First, the union is its members. The union is people like me. The union is teachers and staff who teach in this district and work in this district. And we live in the community. We are the union. Second, what do? Well, the union listens to the concerns of its members. And I look forward to having an opportunity to share these concerns with you this year.
Lou Sampson.
Good evening. I was in college in the 60s, and it was a very tumultuous time, kind of like now during the Vietnam War. And I had a big poster in my house that said, "Question authority." And then after that, I contacted a deadly illness and found out how the medical business and big pharma work, and I learned to question that authority. I was called misinformed last meeting because I now live in the age of cancel culture, and if people question, their thoughts are dismissed. The day I stop questioning is the day I start dying. And I would like to cede the rest of my time to Mary Grace to continue with her scientific knowledge.
I'm sorry, that's not how it works at,
Is there a
the
rule
board.
that says I cannot?
Yeah, 2 minutes per person is allotted, so I'm sorry, this is. Okay.
I contacted the superintendent and asked about the rules for the meeting. And I was told that they do not follow the Robert's rules of new order directly, and it will be a general meeting, correct? This is a general meeting of the board. and they do not seem to have anything that directly speaks to doing a transfer of time. Then transferring time should be allowed. How's that?
It's in our bylaws.
Who's the next person, please?
Renee Villani.
Pardon me?
Renee Villani.
I guess it doesn't matter.
I was just going to state for the record, the call to the public is not, thank you for the comment about Robert's rules. It's a guideline, it's not a requirement, and there is discretion on the part of the president and the board in terms of whether to have a call to the public, how much time, and some of the formal parameters. So the discretion exercised by the president is within the allowable norms of his governance and operation of the meeting. So you're right, it's not explicitly written anywhere, but it is within the norms of discretion on the part of the president. I just wanted to clarify that.
Hi, my name is Renee Villani, and I am a Pima County taxpayer for almost 25 years. I think we can all agree that we are very happy to see kids back in school. I applaud the student recipients of the Character Award along with their guardians, whom I have no doubt have that child's best interests at heart and mind. I also applaud the board members who provided reports last month. However, much to my amazement, at last month's meeting, we heard Superintendent Valenzuela and School Board Member Werner make some highly suggestive remarks toward masking and vaccinating. Mr. Valenzuela, you stated that after you completed some perfunctory tasks during a school visit last month, you, quote, observed masking, then provided an interesting summary that sounded eerily like pre-civil rights discussions. I'm sure that was not intentional, but that seed was planted. Ms. Warner, your heart was on your sleeve. I heard it in your voice. Your duties, though, do not include providing medical opinions. Thank you for sharing the information and data you did, but let's not forget what else the superintendent said last month. There's also misinformation out there, and yes, I do question my government. I hope you will reconsider using your passion in a positive, help restore or install health and wellness teaching models, because the science is never settled, especially when there's gain-of-function research. Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee Kibbe. Renee Kibbe.
Hello, I'm Renee Kibbe, and I'm a mom. And I just loved seeing those kids this meeting, and last month I wasn't able to see it in person, but it was beautiful. And congratulations, kids. And, as you discuss the district's curriculum updates, adoption updates, please keep in mind, I have this song in my mind, our children are our future. We adults should teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside and give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Stop forcing the mask and stop forcing or coercing vaccines on our children. And we've decided long ago never to walk in anybody's shadow. If we fail, if we succeed, at least we believe we lived as we believe. No matter what they take from us, they couldn't take away our liberty, our dignity, because we found the greatest love of all inside of us. But keep in mind the Marxist teachings that are promoted in this school district and all the districts in America, they take away these students' dignity and their beliefs. And we must raise the academic standards and protect our children's minds and souls from the oppressive biasness and teaching of Marxism. And as you discuss the adoptions of curriculum, and please get rid of the Marxist oppression. And I asked one board member, because you guys approve of curriculum, I asked one board member if you do allow Marxism teachings, and I got deflected to the teacher, I got deflected to the principal, the assistant superintendent. So since you guys are in charge of the
Brittany
curriculum,
Blaylock.
please get rid of it. Thanks.
All right. Last meeting, it was mentioned by an individual that us against these mandates are considered the silent minority. But I'm here to make it known that we are the majority. I attend these meetings not only for myself and for my kids that are a part of the district, but I also attend it for tons of parents that aren't able to attend these meetings in person due to other circumstances like work. So I just want to let you know that we are the majority, and we're watching, we're listening, and we're not going away. And then second, I just want to repeat how well my kids are doing this year now that they don't have to wear a mask to school. They're doing well academically, mentally. They're just doing a really good job. You can ask their teachers. It's complete 180. They're just doing great. And then also, lastly, I just want to thank the board members that voted against the mandates last meeting. I do appreciate it. I don't feel like I should have to thank someone to not mandate something for my kids, but I do appreciate it, and so do the other parents that I'm in contact with. Thank you.
Laura Anastasia.
Good evening. Oh, can you hear me? I'm here as a parent of students in SUSD. It's my daughter's senior year, and I selfishly want her and all of our seniors to have as normal a year as possible. Sadly, the 2 classes before hers were not normal, and unfortunately, the spread of the COVID Delta variant is increasing, and I fear that we are headed towards a time when we will be back to hybrid school unless our community pulls together. Masks are a small ask of our community to protect others and to keep our kids in-person school. Masks can protect us, but only at a small percentage if no one else is wearing theirs. Masks must be worn by all people to be effective. Telling kids they can wear one if they want to does no good without the participation of everyone. It is in the school district's best interest to protect their students, their teachers, and staff. And so mandating a mask policy is their responsibility. Another mom has suggested that I am not the majority, and I think that should be challenged. I asked the school board to put a survey out to parents and staff and get feedback from there, because I believe that I am part of the majority of people in the community. I asked the governing board to do your job, the job that we elected you to do, and that is protect everyone in our schools. We should be following medical science, not political science.
Hey.
Excuse me, folks, if we can't remain civil, you'll be asked to leave.
Yeah.
Thank you. This isn't a meeting for that kind of behavior. Thank you.
Amanda Edwards.
Hi there. It's been a while since I've spoken. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids currently in the district. 1 graduated. After the last school board meeting, which I was unable to attend in person, I feel like I need to speak up again. This is not my idea of fun. But I wanted to thank also the board members that did agree to keep the masks optional. I thank you for that. It's keeping my kids in school. I'm not okay with having my kids masked. And my kids are loving school, by the way, loving it. I just find it very interesting how many of the staff, at least at my kids' school, staff, teachers, and students are not wearing masks. I'm shocked. I'm so happy. I do think from at least my kids' school, we are the majority. And I am 100% for putting out a survey to ask the teachers and the staff and the parents what they think, because I absolutely think we are more of the silent majority. People are afraid to speak out. I've had staff come to me and say, thank you for fighting for me at those meetings. I've had teachers tell me, we can't speak out because we need our jobs. But we want the kids in school. Not only are the masks a problem, but the contact tracing is a problem. I've had teachers, again, bring it up to me. It's a problem. These kids are getting sent home for these long periods of time, sometimes over and over again, and the kids are the ones that are suffering. They're missing out. I had a teacher tell me that these kids are not only a year behind, but up to a year and a half behind, and not even just educationally, but also socially. If they were gone in second grade, if they got sent home at the end of their second grade year and they're now in fourth grade, they still act like second graders because they haven't been in school for a year. And then not to mention the fact that they're still working on subtraction. You know, they just didn't get to learn that. And we're hurting the kids. The teachers are stressed out. The teachers are struggling. The parents are stressed out. But the kids are the ones that are suffering the most. And when you put these things to a vote, I just ask that you think about who you're representing. And that's the parents and the kids of the district, the children.
That's it.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the district curriculum, sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, the district, there's no updates on the curriculum, right?
Yeah, there is an update on.
Okay, yep, sorry, thank you. We'll move on to the district curriculum update then.
Yes, sir, President Apalka, members of the board. As you know, Mr. Bonner is our Assistant Superintendent for Ed Services, and he does a wonderful job of providing senior level leadership to the development of strong, rigorous, and appropriate academic programs. Again, the curriculum is what is taught and what resources are used to deliver that instruction. So I asked Brett to deliver a brief summary that provides the public with information about what we teach, the process for which it is adopted, where it's located, so that anybody, any parent, any community member can access these materials and see the resources that are being utilized in our classrooms to teach our students. So at this point, I turn it over to Mr. Bonner. Again, there is no adoption tonight. It's a formal process when we do that, as Brett may reference. But tonight, it's just kind of an informative update on our curriculum. Mr. Bonner.
Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela, members of the board, members of the community. My name is Brett Bonner, I'm Assistant Superintendent for Educational Services. And my goal this evening is to walk through what we currently have adopted as curriculum throughout the district, and also show our efforts in being open, transparent, and walk you through access to look at what we have in our classrooms. So, a lot of adoptions have not taken place in our district within the last 5 years. And most of them taken place in the last 5 years. Prior to that, we didn't have funding to adopt major curriculum initiatives district-wide. In fact, over 5 years ago, at points of the fiscal year, our district had up to 85% of our capital, district additional assistance. Is it my mic? Okay. District additional assistance actually pulled back by the state, so that really limited some of our funding to purchase curriculum for the classrooms. Since that time, the state has restored, in fact, this current year, full funding for district additional assistance capital. In addition to that, our local taxpayers, through an override, have been very supportive with our recent curriculum adoptions. So with that, I'd like to share what we're currently implementing district-wide that has gone through a curriculum adoption process, or what we're currently using as curriculum supplemental resources. So from the public access, if you go to the district webpage, or just go to Google, for example, and you click on district link, Sahuarita Unified School District link, and this is our main page that is just again from a server like Google, and go to the parents section, click on parents, and in our effort to be transparent, open, and at any time if questions come up about our curriculum adoptions, again, teachers, school administrators, myself, always open to answer questions, share information, and be as transparent as possible. So in this sense, to see specifically what our curriculum is, you click on the curriculum link, and we have a dedicated page that is publicly accessible that highlights the different curriculums we have in Sahuarita Unified School District. Before an adoption is made, I'd like to walk through a process with you. We have to identify an established need. So for example, as a public school setting, we are required to teach Arizona college and career readiness standards. We don't make up our standards. It's not driven by one teacher. It's not driven by me. It is mandated by the Arizona Department of Education, and the standards are grades K through 12th grade, and they're called the Arizona College and Career Readiness Standards. So that is the framework of what we're expected to teach in all of our classrooms in all the content area. The ideal then is to, pending funding, to identify a curriculum that would support the instruction and implementation of those state adopted standards. So we look at that, we establish a need, and in the last few years we've established a need into some major curriculum areas specific to mathematics and reading. Good.
Okay. And when we do a major adoption, it's not just me behind the green curtain. It's a committee process that involves parents, stakeholders, teachers, students, and there's a formalized process to evaluate what a curriculum adoption would be considered to share to the board. Ultimately, the board makes the final recommendation to approve a curriculum adoption. As I mentioned, we have a committee, and I'll share some examples of what we've done in the past, where it's comprised of multiple stakeholders that help support the recommendation process. By policy and state statute, anytime a significant curriculum adoption is made, the materials must be publicly displayed for 60 days. We use business days to make sure that we have full compliance. We keep copies of the curriculum in the district office. We provide opportunities to view curriculum at governing board meetings. In addition to that, we set up an online feedback forum where public, parents, students, teachers can share feedback electronically or in person about concerns, thoughts, recommendation about the proposed curriculum. So again, our goal is to be very transparent, seek stakeholder feedback, and seek what parents and family members would like to share about their perspectives regarding any type of proposed curriculum adoption. It really takes about a year to adopt a comprehensive curriculum. So as I mentioned earlier, we identify the need. For example, mathematics. We didn't have a mathematics curriculum not until up to 2018-2019 school year. We had different math books from different publishers, and there was not a lot of cohesion or consistency, and our goal is to teach the standards, and with the ideal situation, having an adopted curriculum that is comprehensive for grades K through 12th grade. Then, once an adoption is made, our goal is to utilize what we call curriculum maps, and I'll go more into depth in that in a moment, and align our curriculum with the maps. Teachers deliver the instruction, and this instruction is delivered by the expected standards driven by Arizona College and Career Readiness Standards. So, with that, let me highlight a few items that we have that are resources specific to our curriculum initiatives. In the year 2014-2015, our district was growing significantly. Our goal was to be more aligned in our practices, to follow the state standards, and we invested as a district to adopt a framework. It's not necessarily a curriculum, it's a framework called Beyond Textbooks. Beyond Textbooks is a curriculum map that helps pace teachers' instruction. So it identifies the standards in the specific content area, and it tells what standard needs to be taught by the state standards, the window a teacher has to teach it, and then the delivery is driven by the teacher. So if I'm Miss Rojan, who's in the audience here, I'm a science teacher or a math teacher, she follows Beyond Textbook as by knowing these are my math standards at this appropriate grade level driven by the state that I need to teach my students. Here's the window that the pacing guide, which is Beyond Textbooks, is saying I have to teach this, so maybe anywhere from 5 days to 2 days. And the how is driven by that classroom teacher. And we do extensive training in essential elements of instruction. We have staff development in mathematics. But the Beyond Textbooks is the what, which is the standards, the when is the pacing, and the how is driven by that classroom teacher to meet those standards. It's really a roadmap to make sure that I have 2 kids of my own. My daughter starts 3rd grade, and by the time she ends 3rd grade, She's met all of those reading and math standards, science standards, social studies by year's end. And that's what helps us with Beyond Textbooks. It's a pacing guide. And that's one resource to view. For a major adoption we had was our mathematics adoption for grades kindergarten through 8th grade, and it's with Curriculum Associates. It's called Ready Math. And Ready Math was a comprehensive adoption for grades kindergarten through 8th grade, aligned to the state standards. And prior to COVID, which I'm really disappointed about, our numbers on student assessment scores and student proficiency levels were on an upward trend. Kids were responding well to the mathematics. Our teachers really bought into the mathematics curriculum. Our parents had great support of the curriculum. And we were very pleased, and we're still implementing Curriculum Associates mathematics in our classrooms, grades kindergarten through 8th grade. Here are some available resources online that you can look at. Again, they're all aligned to the Arizona College and Career Readiness Standards. And at any time, whether it's at the classroom site or my office, I have hard copies that you're more than welcome to check out or look at any time. So grades K through 8 is called Ready Math, and we're coming close to almost a 5-year implementation plan with that program. We also partner with Curriculum Associates for Ready Reading, which focuses on comprehension and reading skills in the K through 8th grade level as well. You may hear from, if you have children in the district, we have our benchmark testing. So currently we're benchmark testing this week. Our testing is aligned to the curriculum, which is the ideal situation. You have the curriculum, you have the standards, they align, and then we do benchmarks 3 times a year to give data to teachers and to parents about how your children or our students are doing with proficiency levels specific to those standards. Are they struggling? And if so, what areas do they need help in? Are they proficient? It just reaffirms that that standard was met in the instruction category. So that's mathematics and reading. Science, we adopted back in 2016, 2017. This was not a comprehensive adoption. We still have several textbooks in the district that are prior to my tenure. In fact, have been around for several years. This was a supplemental resource that we adopted through the support of Freeport-McMoran grants. And this is an online science resource through Discovery Education that provides, again, we teach the science standards by the state, and we have through Discovery Education hands-on labs that are visual, videos, everything related to science standards are actually visible and can be applied in learning using this platform. It's really cool for teacher use and application. So that's another resource that we use. In grades kindergarten through 3rd grade, we adopted a program called Saxon Phonics that goes along with our reading framework. Children, students in elementary school have 90 minutes of reading every day, 90 minutes. That's our reading block. Anything beyond that would be reading lab or beyond our reading framework. And through our professional development, through our trainings, we're expected to teach what they call the Big Five. It's phonics, fluency, comprehension, vocabulary. And what we found that was missing was a key component specific to phonics. You know, the phonemes, the sounding of words. And so we had adopted the Saxon Phonics through the collaboration with our reading specialists that we have at all of our elementary schools the year of 2017 and 2018. And I too believe that this has helped our students with their literacy skills, their reading skills, and of course, improving their goals and becoming more proficient readers each year. This was a huge comprehensive adoption back in 2019-2020 school year. We adopted in grades 6th through 12th grade a comprehensive social studies adoption through Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. And you'll see here this public access. These are the materials that we've adopted. These are the textbooks we have in classrooms. And we have United States history for the middle school level, world civilizations, civics, world geography. We did not adopt the African American history, and we did not adopt the world geography, these two. So the main were the top 3. And then for high school, we did not, we have the civics component, we have the American history component, world history component, United States government. We did not do the global geography, and we did adopt the economics. Again, all of these resources are available online to view, and I'll show you a page that gives you access where you can log in and actually look at the textbooks. And again, if you have any questions about the curriculum, talk to your classroom teacher, school administrator, talk to me. You're welcome to check out a book. I'll be glad to share it with you. Let's see, that's it on that curriculum adoption. We also have a resource called Annuity. This has been available in our district for a long time, again, prior to my tenure. It's been established back, way before 2013, so early 2000s. Annuity is an online platform where students take an online class. So if you're in SDPA, which is the Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy, students in grades 6 through 12, when they take Algebra 1, they're doing a virtual or an online Algebra 1 class. It's delivered in an electronic platform, whereas Mrs. Rojan would actually teach Algebra 1 in person, and she would use the College Preparatory Mathematics curriculum for Algebra 1. So Annuity is an online platform, and then we have our adopted curriculum for in-person learning. It's really self-paced, so you have certain goals to reach when you're online, and once you reach that pace, you go to the next level. So our students that are in SDPA or are enrolled in our alternative high school, you take and you're enrolled in our Annuity courses. At our alt high school, in addition to having it online, we have a high school math teacher that comes by every day to provide additional tutoring and support. And our enrollment right now is at 28 students at our alt school. So it's a pretty small sample size. Our enrollment at SDPA is roughly just a little bit under 300 students. Along with the same time frame that we did the Ready Math adoption, back in 2018, 2019, we also adopted, during that same window of time, a comprehensive college preparatory mathematics adoption for grades 9 through 12. And in this adoption, we have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and Pre-Cal. And that was the 4 adoptions that we adopted with college preparatory mathematics. Again, there's resources available, and this really focuses on 21st century learning, collaborative approach, team problem solving, proficiency levels. Again, all the curriculum is aligned to the state standards. And if you'd like to check out the book, you may need it's a pretty thick book. I'd be glad to check one out with you if you'd like to view the curriculum and what it's about. One important piece about our adoptions, when a board supports a recommendation and supports let me get back to my page here. When they support an adoption of a curriculum, it's important to support the implementation. It's not as simple, all right, it's adopted, classroom teachers, staff, good luck, you're on your own. Because of the board's vision, the support, we have a very strong and extensive professional development team. So every adoption that's comprehensive, we provide professional development training, either prior to school or throughout the course of the school year. So all of our teachers receive training on reading foundations, how to implement Saxon Phonics, our math program, how to look at diagnostics, how to implement inquiry-based instruction, problem-solving skills. All of those factors are then brought into our professional development. Again, if you ever would like to see what we have to offer in professional development, I have a catalog, fantastic offerings that you're more than welcome to look at. So far I've identified the process. We identify a need. There needs to be a funding mechanism. We have a committee that's representative of our community. It's not just me. It's comprehensive, reflective of our community and our stakeholders. We have public review and comment, and then the implementation, which is training, support, and again, it's not just one and done. It's every year reinforcement, support, better understanding, and to figure out ways that we can improve. So those are the major adoptions. Again, we have not had a lot because we have not had money from the state. So what we currently have in place is what we call standards-based instruction. We're expected to teach those standards. We have the curriculum that I just shared to help support those standards. And our report cards in grades kindergarten through 5th grade, also available on our webpage, is a standards-based report card. So as a parent, when you look at how students are performing, it's very specific in the areas of how your children are doing. Instead of just having an A in reading, a B in reading, it'll actually tell you the specific areas, the standards, that your children may be struggling with or very proficient with. So it's more specific, it's directly aligned to the state standards, and it's not arbitrary in nature, much more specific. Here's some additional resources. I like to show this as an example. If you click on this button here, it'll take you to the past presentation that I did in 2018 to the governing board. And I'm going to pull this one up here. This was done back sometime in 2018-2019 school year. And you can see here some examples, a little bit larger. So this is the presentation that I presented to the governing board prior to the final recommendation approval. And this is specific to math. So again, I talked about the objectives, the process, the math curriculum, data analysis. We talked about different objectives of why we wanted that need was established. And we talked about the adoption process specific to looking at different options, who was in the committee. We had a rubric that all the committee members had to fill out to assess if this was the right curriculum. And we had presentations. So for example, when we went through this process, we started in January of 2018, and we pulled together the available vendors that were out there to evaluate, is this the curriculum we want to adopt for math? Okay, we have the standards, we have standards-based instruction, we have report cards that are aligned to those standards. What curriculum can we use to support the implementation and teaching of those standards? So we pulled the following curriculum. We looked at college preparatory mathematics, which is only 6th through 12th grade, Ready Mathematics, which I shared earlier, K through 8th grade. We looked at McGraw-Hill, which is another publisher, Discovery Education, Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and Pearson Mathematics. So all of these vendors provided math curriculum. A committee was formed, and you can see here's the committee. We had Kevin Harcourt, Professional Development Coordinator. You can see, I'm not going to read every name up here, but you have PD personnel. We had Becky Davis as a parent, Kara Egbert, who is a town council member at the time, still is a town council member. Myself, of course. We had third grade teachers, and we also had the Director of Student Services for Special Education and our English language learner teacher from Soperi, Rosa Alvarez. So again, very comprehensive. Parents, teachers, and professional development coordinators were part of that process. As I mentioned before, when presentations were delivered by the vendors, every member of the adoption committee had a rubric. They followed the rubric, graded it, and that helped with our recommendation process that we felt as a committee would be best served in adopting a curriculum. Once that rubric was completed, we then, as a committee, recommended that the adoption of Ready Math be done for grades K through 8, and for, as I referenced earlier, CPM be done for Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calculus. So we also looked at data. What did Ed reports have to say about the curriculum? They give ratings on different curriculum, and in both of our recommendations for mathematics, Ready Math, as you can see here where my cursor's at, were all extremely high in the reports associated to math instruction, math resources, and math implementation, which relates to rigor, focus, coherence, and mathematical practices and usability. So again, we used some data research out there to support that recommendation. So in the end, after a very long and thorough process, we had all those vendors present to our committee March 2nd and March 9th. And we made the recommendation March 9th after we heard everyone talk and we filled out the rubrics. We presented this to the board on March 21st. As by state statute and board policy, the curriculum was posted for 60 days. Again, we kept it business days. In addition to that, we meet every summer with our teachers. They take our pacing guides, which is the BT curriculum guides, and they align it to the sequencing of the adopted curriculum. So it's not just, again, it's not arbitrary. There's purpose in what we do. And of course, the new fiscal year was July 1st, 2018, when we were able to purchase, and we were under a 5-year contract with this particular curriculum. And we're coming up on 5 years. And of course, we provided that professional development to support the implementation of that math adoption. That's just one example of the process. As I stated earlier, there are others, like for example, you're welcome to look at the social studies and other very similar process. And here's that link I referenced earlier to look online. If you want to see the social studies curriculum, you're welcome to just look on and follow these explicit directions. Go to this website, follow these steps, and you have full access to our adopted curriculum. And I would just like to conclude with, again, any questions that arise, please share. Our goal is to be open. Our goal is to be inclusive. And our goal is to be available if you have any questions about our adopted resources. I'm really grateful for the board's commitment when the funding is available to support adoptions. I really appreciate the commitment to staff development and training. And again, I'm also grateful that we're in a process now where state funding has been restored, where we're able to invest, and the local taxpayer support through our overrides has allowed us to adopt curriculum as well. So again, I'm very grateful, and I'm open for any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
We'll move on to new business, the Arizona School Facilities Board, new construction. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. President Opalka, members of the board and community. I bring you more information of good news, and that is that through our resourceful efforts and collaboration and outreach with the Arizona School Facilities Board, we have secured funding for the expansion of facilities specifically at the high school level. Again, the SFB, as it's known, the School Facilities Board, is a state agency that is charged with this mission among many, but one of them is to work with school districts in helping to meet their facility needs. So we have been approved, and it was actually part of the legislative process. If you look in the fine print in this session, we were one of the districts that was approved. We were originally approved for $11 million to support expansion of high school facilities. Again, we're a growing community, so we meet the formula requirements. So we received that. Given the acknowledgement of the rising costs of construction across sectors across the country, the legislature put in a multiplier that increased this amount to approximately, actually even a little bit more than $18 million. And so now, of course, if you've tried to build a new high school lately, and the last time that we built one was Walden Grove, and that one was just shy of 30 million. So 18 million is not going to build a new high school, but it gives us a significant investment in meeting the current and future projected growth needs. So this evening, you have a document before you that I'll recommend you approve, and I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Downs, who's going to kind of tell you what it is, what it says, and what I'm asking you to authorize tonight. Mr. Downs.
Thank you, Dr. Valenzuela. Good evening, board members and community members. Basically, the document before you is basically the terms and conditions of the money. They have certain design requirements, but it is very fluid when we get into actually the design of the school. We'll work with our architect once selected and get stakeholders and start designing it. But really, this is the parameters of the money. And it's very basic, and it's probably things that you would realize that would probably be in here. For instance, we have to, so we don't sit on it and wait 10 years to do it, you have to start bidding the project and have it fully bid within 3 years. If you don't spend all the money, you have to return it, although there is a contingency that you can get, if you don't spend all the money, you can get approval to spend the surplus on capital. You have to follow the record keeping per the Uniform System of Financial Records. Mrs. Huey has already read through this and has blessed it and said we pretty much do that already as a public entity. We have to follow Arizona public procurement rules. If the district intends to supplement the project through a bond or other funding, SUSD governing board has to pass a resolution and give it to the School Facilities Board just so they know what our intent is and if we're going to support the project supplementally. It talks about all the required reports, required meetings, completion report, and at the end, we have to produce a project closeout manual. So it's really just in terms of the money and what we have to do and the rules that we have to live by. So we're basically saying we're following your process. Other than that, the design and everything will come later. So this is really just the parameters of the terms and conditions of the financial portion.
So in a nutshell, Mr. Downs, what you're saying is that what I'm recommending to the board this evening is that they accept the deployment of $18 million to the school district for the purposes that they're stated, which is expansion of high school facilities. We have latitude to develop a resourceful, efficient plan. For example, we're allowed, if we wish, to expand existing facilities as part of that effort, and we're going to engage in that process. But it's basically accepting $18 million and agreeing to comply with the School Facilities Board's rules that are associated with reporting and operating and managing those funds. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So with that, I would recommend your approval of this document from the Arizona School Facilities Board, new construction, as presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just had a quick question, and it did get sort of touched on, but just in making sure, because it's legal documents and S's mean something. It is, we can, if we decide at that juncture, when we get to that point, and I realize that we're not at that point yet, but when we get to the point of deciding how to do this, we can utilize funds at the two existing high school sites as opposed to starting an entirely new high school. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. And that would probably be my suggestion to Dr. Valenzuela, because building a new school, you know, Walden Grove costs $27 million, so $18 million is not going to build a comprehensive high school. And I would feel that we would get more bang for our buck in supplementing the existing schools in an appropriate way to where we're not overcrowding, we're not doing all the programs, are still efficient and running well. The educational mission is still, our goal. So that's why, and the School Facilities Board allows you to do that.
Okay, perfect. That was my question.
When was the last time we received School Facilities Board money?
The last time we received was when we built Walden Grove High
It was
School.
from
We
Walden
actually
Grove.
had some
Okay.
funding, and then we supplemented it with bond money.
Bond money. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. We'll move on to the 2021-2022 revised fee schedule. Dr. Valenzuela.
These fee schedules, we usually approve them once a year and they don't come back. There is an actual reason why this one is back. And again, you already have approved a fee schedule for the year. It is legal, it's authorized, and it's in motion. Just as a reminder, we really are very meticulous about the fees that we levy on students. They're allowed, and they're allowed for costs that are clearly above and beyond the norm, based on the unique situation of a program, et cetera. And so we have an approved list. The reason we're asking for an amendment is, well, a couple reasons. Some just change, some just reality, some circumstance. For one, there's the one at the top about single-day field trips. Mrs. Huey made me aware of a technical requirement that is in place, and it requires that things that we've always done, like take kids on field trips to the Desert Museum, go to the Children's Museum, or take them to the theater at Centennial Hall at the U of A, and we charge them a few bucks to offset the costs. Technically, that's a fee, and so we have to have it on this fee schedule. So again, it's a practice that's always been allowable and in place. We just need to formally put it on here. Also, some things beyond our control. Mr. Bonner made me aware that the examinations for the College Board Advanced Placement Exam, since the time you've approved the fees, they've gone up by $1. Not because of us, but because the College Board raised them. So we obviously have to correspond and be accurate. And then the National Technical Honor Society, it's a CTE honor society, similar to the National Honor Society in terms of scope and mission. And they have a fee, and I think it's $30 to $25 or $30. And again, we were not participating in this when the fees were first approved in the spring. So normally in the fall, we have a whole process that's led by Mr. Bonner that involves review, consultation with corresponding site administrators, presentation of the fees, tabling the fees, and then approval of the fees. So this is just an amendment to the existing fee schedule based upon those specific circumstances. And at this point, I would recommend your approval of these revisions so that we can have our fee schedule updated and up to date.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Thanks for getting that sorted out. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to the public online auction items. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. President Apalka, members of the board and public. Again, through Arizona revised statutes and Arizona Administrative Code, the district is allowed to designate items that have exhausted their useful life as disposable assets, is the term that's used. And that allows them to be put on the auction block, so to speak, to capture whatever residual value we can get. And so you have actually a very lengthy list of old stuff. I know that's a technical term, but old desks and computers and things like that that meet this criteria, and I would recommend your approval of that designation for public online auction items.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussions? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll move on to the budget update.
Yes, sir. President Apalka, as this board asked, gosh, I think it's probably been a year or two, just for a regular snapshot, kind of a dipstick of the current year budget and how we're doing over time at this point in time and in comparison to prior year. And Mrs. Huey creates a nice little colorful graph that she shows, and so I turn it over to Lizette to share whatever she'd like to share.
Good evening. So tonight's report is basically a snapshot of where we were last year and where we are this year, ending in August 31st of 2021. In orange is where you'll find last year's expenditures, and in blue is this year's expenditures. And so all it's representing in here is that we are a tad bit lower in our expenses than we were last year. Around this time, I'll just explain the peaks. So the peaks, the first peak that you see to the left is our instructional, that's our teachers, anybody that's instructional based, salaries and benefits. The other peak is our classified staff, our support services. And again, those are mainly the 61 and the 6200s are the salaries and the benefits. The next peak is mostly student transportation. It has insurance and things of that nature in that bubble. But all in all, our expenditures align pretty almost exact to where we were last year. So unless you have any questions in regards to the report, I'll be happy to answer them.
I think when I looked at the numbers, we were about 500,000 less than what we were last year at this time.
Correct.
I think on the expenditures. So
That's
okay.
correct.
All right. Anybody have any other questions? Nope. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the policy revision, DKC expense authorization reimbursement.
I'll give you the thumbnail sketch, and Lizette can give you the details. In a nutshell, there are rules and policies and legal requirements pertaining to travel, staff travel, conferences, et cetera, programmatic travel. And usually when people come back, they're allowed within certain boundaries to claim expenses, including things like meals. Historically, people have had to bring like receipts, and they, go into their pocket and they have all these receipts, and within rules they're allowed to claim those. What is allowed and what's being recommended is the ability to submit reimbursables according to standard protocol. They're actually pretty basic levels of reimbursement, but without all of the multiple receipts and tabulations and time and effort that's required to do that. It's authorized by the Arizona Department of Administration and deemed to be more efficient and cost-effective for all parties concerned. So Lizette, what would you add to that?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is that because the per diem is so low already and the prices of meals are going up whenever you go to any restaurants or anything of that nature, The trend has been that mostly it doesn't really cover a whole lot, so we're not leaving a lot on the table. It's not costing the district any more money. If anything, our employees are supplementing it with their own if it goes over. So what I'm seeing based off of the information and all of the line item receipts that we have to look at, the trend seems to be that we're not saving any money. If in fact we're utilizing more staff resources to go line by line on those line items. So with that, again, the only other thing I would add is that the district is still responsible to follow all the ADOA. So we still have maximums that we still have to abide by, and that's what the policy is. It will still follow those same parameters.
And in alignment with our customary practices when we're asking for a revision of policy, I would recommend tabling this item at this time for anticipated presentation at a future meeting.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation to table the review until next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I know that this practice is utilized in a lot of corporate America when you are working on government items, and anything we can do to alleviate paperwork and make our teachers get reimbursed faster, I fully think that's a brilliant idea. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll bring it back next meeting. Thank you. We'll move on to the path forward update. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. Just as we've been doing pretty much all along throughout the course of the pandemic, we try and provide an updates in regards to our what last year was the road back plan. This year is the path forward plan. Different stages of the journey through this pandemic. This evening I won't have any particular recommendation, but I do have, I think, some interesting information, a few tidbits of information to share. At the last governing board meeting on August 25th, we had 19 active cases at that particular slice moment in time. This evening when I checked with Amber, because we update our dashboard, again, in the interest of just good timely communication, we update it every day. And at the end of the day, again, we had 19 three weeks ago. And today at the end of the day, we have 12 active cases. So and it ebbs and flows, but we're sitting at 12. Another piece of information as an update for the board and public, you may have heard that the so-called budget reconciliation case was heard up in the Phoenix area in Maricopa County before Judge Catherine Cooper. And basically, that's the case that's addressing multiple things, including mask mandates and things like that. But really, the salient issue in that case is more about how that came to be, that legislators took multiple issues that didn't specifically have to do with the budget, and that they put it in what's called the budget reconciliation bill. So that's really the fundamental question that's being addressed. Arguments were heard on Monday. From what I understand, the judge said that she hopes to make a decision before the September 29th timeframe where that statute is supposed to take effect. I even heard anecdotally, I don't know how certain it is, that she wanted to make it sooner than later because it's anticipated that whoever loses is going to go straight to the Supreme Court. So we'll wait and see on that. And again, all that says is whether that's deemed legal or not legal. Today, the Pima County Health Department provided public access to a vaccine clinic. Again, totally optional choice. If minors are being vaccinated, it's totally at the discretion of their parents. And so again, we are proud partners with our local public health entities in support of multiple layered mitigation strategies. This was one example. I also took the initiative to talk with our attorney about the, gosh, I don't even know what they'd call it at this point. It's the latest edict from President Biden about mandatory vaccination requirements or testing requirements for employers that have more than 100 employees. Well, obviously that got my attention. We have 865 employees, I think. And what our attorney told me is that literally the regulations and the rules about this issue are still being developed, and really nobody knows how and what it will impact schools, or even the timeline at which our employees would be impacted by such a thing. Anecdotally, we have a perception that the overwhelming majority of our employees are vaccinated, but obviously if this were to come into play, it would create an additional process and actions that we would have to take. So the answer to that is, it depends, is kind of what I heard from the legal folks, and they said to stay tuned because it hasn't been clarified. Another, I think, exciting thing that I can report about the Path Forward plan is that one of the things I've heard from parents, and I really do understand it, and I think our staff understands it, is that according to the public health guidelines, if a student demonstrates what's called COVID-like illness, so they have a bad cough or a headache, and although some of these things could have multiple sources for why they're presenting themselves, right? Sometimes allergies, sometimes dehydration. But in the concern for the management of this pandemic, the rule is if you demonstrate these things, you got to go home, and then of course you got to go get a COVID test, and if you're negative and your symptoms resolved, then you can come sooner. What we are launching, and it's in the process right now in partnership with Pima County Health, is we're going to launch our own site-based testing opportunities. It's a choice. You don't have to do it, but instead of going to CVS or Walgreens to get a test, with, again, parental consent, proper authorization, students, if they're identified as having one of these symptoms, and you've seen the list of symptoms, the fever, the headaches, the sore throats, the cough, if they have that, they will be able to opt in to have a rapid antigen test. And if they test negative and all the other conditions are appropriate, they can go right back to class, and they don't have to leave class. So it's a convenient service in those situations to collect data that allows students to either go back, or if they're still sick, they might have to go home, but might not have to go home as long. So I think that's exciting, and we really are trying our best to provide students with every opportunity to both promote safety and follow the guidance of our public health experts, but also to keep kids in school, to keep our schools open. I heard multiple comments. I've seen it myself. Things are better when kids are available to go to school for full in-person learning. So we want to do everything we can to do that in a safe and methodical way. So stay tuned. I think that's scheduled to launch within the next couple of weeks. And I believe that concludes my Path Forward update for this evening. I'd be glad to answer any questions from the board.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Valenzuela, on the testing for the students, the optional testing, if they so choose, is that of any cost to the parent if they choose to do
Zero
it?
cost. All they have to do is fill out a consent. Again, we're not doing this unless we have parental consent. It's a convenient service to parents if they'd like to avail themselves. They can sign up beforehand so that if the student shows up at the nurse's office sick or coughing or whatever, they've given authorization for them to do the test. And this kind of test, the rapid antigen, it's called the Binax Now.
Yeah.
It gives you results in like 30 minutes.
I know
So
those, they sell them, in the, like Walgreens, CVS, and they're like $23 for 2 tests in a box. So that's a cost savings to a parent if they choose to do that or not. So
Yes, ma'am. And it's also convenient. Mom doesn't have to come, pick up the child, go to CVS, et cetera.
thank you very much.
Any other comments, questions?
I guess I'm just trying to understand what you're saying about the vaccine guidelines that you checked out, like when they're going to affect, or if they're going to affect staff and.
Right. Well, the question that I had, Ms. Warner, is given what our president has stated in regards to mandating vaccines to any to employers that have 100 employees or more, I was wondering what's the impact on us? Because I know that President Biden stated that all federal employees all federal employees have to be vaccinated or whatever conditions. I heard that it has an effect on private businesses that also meet the same criteria. We're kind of unique because we're not federal employees. We receive federal funds. We fall under the purview of the state. We're also not private. So I was just trying to get clarity about how this potentially could impact us, if we're going to be bound by it. And what I heard is we don't know yet. Yeah.
Okay. And then another question was on the surveys for staff and students and parents on their feelings about masks. I know we had a speaker that mentioned that, and you gave us anecdotal evidence last meeting and this meeting about people wearing masks, but can we do something about getting a survey out to the staff, the parents, like an accurate representation of our community? Because we can have people come to the meetings, we can have people email, and it really still is not going to give us an accurate representation of what people are really wanting or asking or prefer for their kids.
Can I follow up on that real quick?
Sure.
I agree. I think that, under the law that comes into effect on the 29th, we're really bound by the law. And so I think a survey would be great, but I also don't want to expend a lot of our resources and time when we're up against a law. But maybe if that date moves, that's something that we can look into.
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around, I guess, how long do we wait to see if this law is resolved? How long do we wait to do something that would be recommended by the actual experts to keep children in school? Because that's the ultimate goal for all of us, is to keep the kids with in-person learning. And there are plenty of other districts and the universities and community colleges that have said we're not going to follow that. It's dangerous. It goes against expert advice. So I guess I'm a little confused why we're not putting something in place. And, as a board, we only get to talk at these meetings. And last meeting, we didn't really get to hear anybody else's opinion on why they voted no. So I was just a little curious. Is it all just a consequence of a law that may or may not be going into effect, that might be going to the Supreme Court? I mean, how long do we wait?
Well, I think you raised several questions, Ms. Werner, and I think what it highlights is that this is not an easy or a simple determination. It's multifaceted. I think going back to your original question, can we do a survey? Yes, we can. We do a lot of surveys, and they have some value. I think the follow-up question that you asked is about how that piece of data plays into what currently are a multitude of other variables. I mean, what I heard in terms of the topics discussed is that there are so many considerations at this point: health, legal, legislative, financial, public opinion. All of those are kind of at play. We do anticipate that with the court and with the forthcoming September 29th rollout or effective date of the law, some of these variables might be more clear to where there are less. And perhaps at that point, it would be more timely, I guess, to ask for that opinion. Because I think the question is, in my opinion, we heard two different people, and I think both were very sincere and very well-meaning, and they believed that they both were in the majority. And so I think the question that I would ask right now at this point in time is that the main point, to find out who's in the majority? Now, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying right now, is that the question that we want to ask at this point in time? I guess my answer to that would be, after the law goes into effect or doesn't go into effect, if the board wants to use that to evaluate this variable, this situation, after some of these other indicators and concerns have changed, it might be appropriate to revisit that and ask that question at that time. And that's just kind of my
I
my
mean,
first response to your question.
the majority is pretty relevant because we're all here as a board to represent the stakeholders, represent the community, the teachers, everybody. So we do want to know what everybody's thinking, at least I do. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. You keep talking about like if this law goes into effect, but we've got the CDC ordinance that according to them, it's for school buses, but according to us, it's not. And we have this vaccine thing coming out for federal employees, but it's probably not going to affect us. But the mask thing is being debated, and it doesn't go into effect until the 29th. And even 6 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago or whenever we were here last, there wasn't really a whole lot of input on why we shouldn't be protecting our kids with all these layers.
Well, I think what we're highlighting together here is that these things are not clear, crystal. They are multifaceted, and they do have multiple dimensions. And what I'm trying to do in my role is to collect as much of that from as many sectors and as many sources and provide that information to all of you so that when you choose and when you initiate taking a vote or taking a survey, you have the information you need to make that decision. Your question was about a survey? Yes, if the board deems that at whatever point the board deems that doing something like that would be helpful, we absolutely will do it. That's our charge. My point is, at this particular point in time right now, I don't believe that that's critical. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but I just don't believe it's critical at this point in time right now. That's all.
I just want to, on the survey question, my concern, I think a survey sounds good in concept. My concern is that with the highly passionate and elevated feelings and emotions around this topic, my concern about a survey is that surveys in most people's minds are generally anonymous. And I do care about what everybody in our community says, regardless if they live within our district boundaries or not. I care. But what I care about most is what those individuals within our district, specifically our parents, care. And so my concern is that doing a survey would necessitate doing a non-anonymous survey. And I'm concerned that a lot of parents on both sides of this question would be highly sensitive to putting that data down on a indexed and a identifiable survey. Because I think anything outside of knowing exactly what our parents think opens us up to hear from people in Tucson and Amato and Vail and Massachusetts and Canada. And so there's my question. There's my concern about a survey. I think it's important to know how people feel, but I'm just concerned with that from just an overall perspective of making a decision specifically for our district. I'm concerned about making sure that data is specifically from our district.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, and I know that we've used some apps before other places, not we, but I've used some apps before where you have to sign in with your school or parent email that's registered with whatever institution. And once you respond, that information dumps into a pool where it's presented anonymously. So the result, once you log in, and you would only be able to log in, and you'd only be able to log in from your email once. You couldn't go in and vote multiple times, but it dumps into another section where when it's read, it would say this percentage of parents, this percentage of staff, but with no names attached, but also just exclusive to people that are in the pool that we're asking. So I don't know if that's something that we could do to avoid having, people that aren't here responding, people that aren't in the schools.
I think it's something that we can look into, most certainly. But I think with 2 weeks until the law comes into effect, again, I think that it's a lot of expenditure of our staff's time. We don't have dedicated staff directly to surveys. We'd be taking them away from something. I'm not saying that it's not a credible thing to take them away to do, but with only 2 weeks until the law goes into effect, I know for me, the timeliness of that is an important date.
I think it's the most important thing because we're here to represent the parents and the teachers. So if we don't know what they're saying, how can we do our job? Denise, what do you think?
My concern is also that regardless if the law is upheld on the part of the judge that is seeing the case, then we're bound by our oath to follow the law. If it goes to the Supreme Court, I don't know whether there will be a stay or anything else in the process, but we're bound by the law. And so as much as, yes, I agree that I would like to know what everyone's thoughts and feelings are, if the law goes into effect on the 29th, then we're bound by that law.
I think more data is always helpful, so regardless of whether I'm asking if you like to wear blue on Monday or red on Monday, you know, the more people I can get the information from, the better off we are. If it's going to come down to a decision that's made at some point down the future, having the survey prepared, sending it out today, sending it out in a week, sending it out 2 weeks, every week from now till the end of whatever this pandemic is, I don't think that you know, would take too much resources, you know, with SurveyMonkey or Google Forms or, you know, Microsoft Forms or any of these other things that are out there. I think being prepared to initiate surveys, which we do quite often, and we do as a part of our, you know, annual assessment and scoring of schools, I'm sure that we have means to take care of that. So the more data, the better. You know, if we're going to make a decision on what, you know, we believe to be the best interest of, you know, our constituents, I think we should know as much as we can about what they want. So it's probably an easy, you know.
So Kevin, so
regardless of what the law says, it doesn't matter. You know, knowing would help.
From that aspect, so like, you know, the survey could say something like, in the future, if we did have to, or if it came down to our numbers, you know, what would your thoughts be, just to gather data?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it can be, the question can be postulated in many ways, but yeah. So I don't think that it hurts for us to you know, get some more formalized data around it. I mean, we get emails, you know, that's one side, you know, each individual email is one way of receiving it, but I think a you know, survey with a similar question, point blank, what do you want, is a pretty easy answer. It only probably takes, you know, a minute to enter your credentials and then answer yes or no or whatever the answer is on, or the options. You know, we're a scale of 1 to 5 and fully agree, don't agree, something in the middle or whatever. I think it's helpful. So the more data we have about, you know, any of our decisions, just like with the presentation that Brett gave for, you know, our curriculum adoption, we have a rubric and we want to weigh and understand the scoring and what is out there. It doesn't hurt for us to have one for this either. So, yeah. Anything else on that? No? So is there a motion on the floor or anything pertaining to any actions that, you know, especially, there's nothing that, no recommendation from you, from Dr. Valenzuela at this point, so.
Do we need a motion to ask for a survey? No.
I don't think so. I don't think we need a motion to just ask you to look into what it would take to create a survey to.
I think if you'd like us to look into the concept and to consider the details and the format and the questions of doing that, to study the matter, I think we can. I think given the conversation and the way it was presented and the dialogue that we have, if the board wants to give direction to do a survey, then I would counsel that a motion would be appropriate. Otherwise, I'd be glad to look into it and to provide the board with feedback and information about the idea of a survey.
Do we have a motion? No?
I move to create a survey and survey the parents and teachers and staff to get their position on masking.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. Is there any discussion? Further discussion?
So that motion was directly stated, do it. I just want to make sure that I understand that clearly. Okay. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to vote no if it comes up to a thing. I want it behind a wall. It can be behind the Power School wall. You log into Power School so we know it's you. But if it's just a Survey Monkey or Google Docs, I'm not okay with that. I want it clarified that these are our parents speaking, not the general public. So as it was stated, my discussion point is that's not okay with me to just throw a survey out there and get data. I mean, it is data. I will give you that. If it's behind the Power School wall, which every one of our parents has, and then maybe behind we have a teacher, an employee login. If it's behind that wall and it can only be used once by their login, I'm okay with that. That proposal to go ahead and do it. But if it's not under those standards and it's data that is contentious and highly fraught with potential error, in my opinion. So
do you want to amend it to specify to be behind the Power School wall?
I mean, Power School is an example. If you'll accept an amendment that says if there is a way to articulate that it is done in such a way that we can guarantee the data was from our staff and our parents, then I'm okay. Not my grandparents in Kentucky.
I'm
but our parents.
100% in agreement with you.
Okay.
So
yes,
I'm
if you'll accept that
hoping
amendment.
that you can word it in like a more precise way that I did, so we make sure we do get the data we're looking for.
And because that helps me feel more comfortable about that data being relevant to us as a specific body. So I'm okay with that. There might be some other people that have any discussions, and we can amend it. If you're okay with accepting that amendment, you're okay with accepting that on your second.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how anybody else feels.
Yeah, I think that was, the intent was to focus in on our constituents and only those, folks who are.
I understand. I just wanted to articulate it.
Yeah, so thank you for that clarification. So any other discussion?
Mr. Palka, my only point, and we will enthusiastically carry out whatever the board determines, and we will get it done. Part of my job is to give you the best advice that I can. So just speaking sincerely, we know that this issue has been wrought with a fair level of apprehension, division, sensitivity. It just has. Not just here, it has. So we are currently operating in, I would say, and I heard it from multiple parents, a fairly consistent, fairly stable, fairly normal day to day. And my worry is that if we take a poll or collect this data right now and kind of revisit or restir this issue of masks at this point, given again the current situation, the current number of cases, the current operation of schools, then we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do with the data, and what are the implications in terms of the day-to-day consistent operations of the school? It's just food for thought.
Well, and my concern too is that, the time that it takes to put together a proper survey, to get it out, behind the proper parameters that we want, and we get it out on September 29th, and the law goes into effect on we get it out on the 28th, we get it out on the law comes into effect the 29th, and then parents think, wait, are we going to defy the law? The timing of it is really important to me, because I think that, it's important to be lawful and to send a message that we're even thinking about not being lawful at the same time.
Yeah, I don't
I
know
don't
that
think
there's
right here,
anything in
right
the
now.
poll or the survey or whatever that says we're going to make any action either way. You know, those actions are going to be dealt with here in the meeting. And I don't think that the intent of any of us is to break the law.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I don't think that there's anything in the motion that says, you know, to collect data so that we can go against some lawful order or law or statute or any of that sort of stuff.
So
So
you don't-
regardless of, you know, how the law comes out, having
Correct.
data about, you know, whether kids like having orange chicken on the menu or, you know, anything. Yes, this may be a contentious thing right now, but it's only contentious probably because people don't understand how everybody thinks about it. And so
That's true.
peeling back that layer and the curtain to say, look, this is the facts. These are the way people voted, okay? Then, you know, that is, you know, what it is, right?
I
So
agree.
just,
I just hope they're all as logical as you are, Kevin.
yeah,
That's what I
well,
meant.
you know,
That's what I want.
And I can see the perspective of, because I'll be clear, I don't ever intend on going against a lawfully enacted law. I'm just trying to get at, and just because I'm, you know, I'm making that statement, I mean, because I want it, doesn't mean I kind of tend to agree until we have clarification. But it seems there's some desire to have this survey. I also do understand, and I do agree that it takes a lot of work. I mean, is it an Everest-sized amount of work? No, but it is work and effort for people that do other things that are important every day. And I do see the point of, does it stir up emotions? Is that kind of a good way to put it? Does it make people angry, you know, or does it? I'm not afraid to get data. I think data is important. I certainly didn't think anything in that understanding. It doesn't say it has to be done tomorrow, but at least move in that direction. But I understand your point, right? If we're doing it right up against something we don't know the outcome of.
How many
'cause-
surveys did we have last year? You know, we had multiple surveys last year. There were multiple surveys of our staff conducted, even if that was done within, you know, the union themselves and provided it to us. But you know, all that is good information and data. You know, I can't talk to 6,300 parent, you know, students and the parents of whether that's half of that number or 2,000 or whatever, and another 800 staff members. I just can't have that conversation because I don't have that many minutes in a day, and I don't think any of us do. And so asking them to participate and provide us with, you know, 4 or 5 minutes of their time in a meaningful, you know, study where it gives us some information about how they feel and the community feels, I think is, you know, worthwhile. So.
And I agree. I think the data's worthwhile. I do ultimately hold the perspective that there are going to be many people who do not participate in this if we make it, because we're asking for it to be our people. I think there are going to be many people who don't participate for fear of retaliation or knowledge or being on a list, or, I mean, I can express that I don't even have to ask. I know individuals that are employed by our district that are always highly concerned about surveys because there's real valid fear that data will be collected. I understand there's systems that, you know, but I'm not proposing that we hire a firm to do it for us, to separate it, to, you know, cause that layer. But ultimately, the data is what it is. But I actually think that we have a really hard time getting people at I mean, does anybody know that, Amber, do you know the percentage of people that that participate in our sentiment survey?
For parents or for staff?
Both.
For parents, we get about 30 to 40%.
Okay. And that's on a fairly non-contentious subject.
Yeah, and then much higher for staff.
Staff is higher.
Yeah, much higher.
So, I mean, that's the other side of this, is that we're asking for the data, but is that ask appropriate right now, given the climate?
I completely agree with gathering the data. I don't know if I agree with doing it right now, with the timing of it. But I agree that data is important. I just don't know if it's right now. That's my thought.
And this is not going to be something that drags out for months on end. At least according to all the attorneys we heard in their native environment, this is going to move probably fairly quickly.
Right. I believe the judge did say that it's anticipated that there will be a ruling before the September 29th effective date of the law.
So then wouldn't we want to have the data before that to make the decision?
To make the decision.
To make any decision once, because what I'm hearing from the majority of the board is the notion of this being law. But if it's decided before then, which is what you're suggesting, or around then, and likely will be thrown out as what they're expecting, we don't know. If that is the only reason that we are not choosing science, then wouldn't we want to have the feedback from teachers and parents before that date so we know what they want?
I think the question is, what is the best timing for gathering that data? I think once that ruling takes place, then there's one more variable that's currently uncertain that would then be certain. And so my original point was that might be a point where something has changed from where it is right now that might justify collecting that additional data from a timing standpoint. That was just
What
one
other
point of view.
variable, though? I mean, are you suggesting, because all I'm hearing is the law, and we don't know what's going on with that. So what are the other variables here aside from what the people in our community want? Are we saying that we don't understand the science, that that's a variable, that that's going to change, that we'll reject masking as a precautionary measure with, infectious disease? Or I'm not really understanding why we would have to wait.
The only thing that I've mentioned is that these types of determinations are multifaceted, and that the public health, the science, the research is important, but that we also have to consider that there are factors such as the pending court ruling, the timing of that ruling, the enforcement of mask mandates in the turbulence of this uncertainty, that there are considerations including the opinion of the community among them, and also the current caseloads and the management of the cases in our particular demographic and our particular locale. So that there are multiple variables that I just cited. All I said is that if some of these work themselves out in a couple of weeks because the court makes a certain determination, then all of a sudden that rather significant element is no longer there. And so the timing might suggest that that's an appropriate juncture at which you ask about the opinion, which might change significantly for many, based upon the legality or non-legality of the mask mandate. And I forgot to mention in terms of variables, again, I'll say it again, it's not just about the money, but the associated money that's associated with that. So that was another thing. So that's kind of the thought process, at least in my mind. And again, we'll do whatever the board decides, but that's just my thought process that I share with you.
Okay, well, that's really all I have. I think everybody said what they were going to say, so I don't know even where we're at with a motion or anything.
Yeah, so there's a motion on the table, it's been seconded, that's a discussion. There was a comment about possibly amending, but you didn't formally make a
No,
motion.
I rescind my amendment.
So you're okay with the way that it was presented, with the understanding that we've already had that discussion, and that would be the direction without formally stating it in the motion, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's already told everyone how he's going to vote, so it really doesn't matter at this point. I mean, it just seems like the whole thing, like,
So I want to correct that statement. I didn't tell you how I was
we're not
going
going
to
to
vote.
have surveys, and it doesn't matter.
I think a vote
Can we call
matters.
for a roll call vote?
Yeah.
Yep, so call the question, is that what I heard?
Yeah.
So, okay. So the vote is to request that the district move forward with a survey of the parents and staff associated with their opinion on masks usage, right? Okay. Ms. Warner, yay or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Reese?
Yay.
Nay.
Nay. Mr.
Nay.
Schwartz? Nay. And I vote yay. So that passes.
Yep.
All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Dr. Valenzuela?
Yes, sir. President Apalka, members of the board, you have a list of routine items that may be considered in one comprehensive motion, and that is my recommendation this evening for the approval of the entire consent agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. We'll move on to possible future agenda considerations. Any items this evening? Okay, the next board meeting will be October 13th here at the district office, or at the, the district auditorium. No executive session. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.